Welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast, the definitive music industry and gear podcast with Jonathan Gilmet and Frank Fleckenstein.
Good morning, everybody. This is the Tone Lounge Podcast. We're at episode number 11. And for some of us, it's morning. For me, certainly it's morning. And for my good buddy, Jonathan Gilmet, coming in live from Belgium, it's morning as well. But for our guest today, it is actually pretty much the evening now. Coming to us from Australia, Remco from Apollo Music Bards. Welcome.
G'day.
G'day. As they say here.
Yeah.
Now, directly, immediately when I heard about you and heard about your name, Remco. Remco is not a typical Australian name, I would assume. And in the like pre-talk to this, you said you originally come from the Netherlands. How long are you living in Australia?
20 years now.
20 years. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's already a long time. Yep.
And what made you move from the beautiful country of free marijuana smoking to the country down under?
Oh, we can still smoke the marijuana here, so that's not a difference.
Okay.
I can get it from the doctor, it's even better.
Oh, wow.
As far as glaucoma.
No, it's medicinal purposes, as they say.
Yeah.
Man, I was here in 1994 on a Contiki holiday.
Okay.
And that was 6 weeks of traveling around with a bunch of idiots in a bus from Sydney all the way up north to Cairns. Mm-hmm. And I just fell in love with this country. You know, it's so much space. Wow. The weather, growing up in Enschede, which is in the German border.
Yeah, I know it.
Well, so growing up there, it's always miserable, shit weather in winter. I can't stand winters. I don't like the cold, so I couldn't live in Canada, where Jonathan is from. It's too cold for me.
I can't live there either, so.
But now here it's like 35 degrees, as we said before, and 65% humidity. It's not fun either, But purposely, I bought a house without an air conditioning, so we just got to suffer through summer. Put the heavy metal fan on and go through it. And it's 3 weeks uncomfortable, and then for the rest of the year we've got, you know what I always say, a European summer the rest of the year.
Okay.
Sometimes a little bit of rain, beautiful weather, and it got too crowded for me in Europe.
Okay. And
so that's why I moved over here, and now it gets crowded here too. So I don't know where to go now. Maybe I have to go to Mars.
How about New Zealand?
Yeah, I've New Zealand. Yes, just around the corner.
It's only 4 hours flying. It's closer.
Yeah.
It's but I've heard that in the past 10 years or so, it seems like Australia has
become up on, like a new on your end there, Frank.
Okay, no worries. It's I've heard that Australia has become some sort of a destination in the past 10 years for or even longer, and the country is kind of like actively making it more attractive for people to come from other countries and bring in their expertise and whatnot. I don't know what the situation is right now, but you said it's getting more crowded.
Well, you want to get into politics?
Maybe not.
Because I can open a whole book here, We just, after COVID, they just opened up the floodgates and let in 1 million people in.
Oh, wow, okay.
But they don't have the houses for it. So my son is now 22. He's finished with his degree to be a pharmacist. He can't find a place to live because it's or too expensive.
Wow.
Or there's nothing, because they let 1 million people in, and they let all this 1 million people in without having enough houses for them, and it's all geopolitical crap where we can go and talk another podcast in. Because I can go on for hours about that stuff,
It's going to be called the Political Lounge.
The political lounge. Yeah, but you know, it's getting. It's funny, you know, saying Australia is getting crowded. You know, we have the land mass of the United States and Canada, but we can only live on the outskirts.
Okay.
And most of the people live on the East Coast where I am. So say from Melbourne up, you got Sydney, Brisbane, and then you go to Cairns, you know.
Yeah.
Driving for me from here to Cairns will take me 2 days. Full driving.
Holy.
You know, it's
Shit.
It's 10 hours for me to drive to Sydney.
Shit.
So it's long distances. And then inland, it's probably another 200-300 kilometers. And then you get into the deserts.
Right.
All the mountain ranges. And yeah, people live there, but there's nothing there because it's dry. It's a desert.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the majority of the population live on that little strip of land along the coast.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Certainly makes sense. So what were you doing professionally while you were still living in the Netherlands?
I was a chef.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I was running kitchens of all kinds, from small fine dining Michelin star restaurants in The Hague up to, maybe you've been there already, the Kuchenhof in Lisse, the big open air flower exhibition.
I've heard of it, but I've never been there. No.
Well, you got to go there. You know, I used to run that place for 4 years as an executive chef. So I had like 50 people working under me and doing all that stuff. And, you know, to come to Australia, you have to fit certain criteria, at least when you come from Holland. And we came in because I was a chef and they needed chefs. But as soon as I came here, I didn't chef anymore.
Oh, okay.
I was already working in the guitar industry then in Australia, in Holland.
Okay. And
I started my career, so to speak, in Amsterdam with a luthier called Danny Markovic.
Okay.
He is a master builder in Amsterdam. He worked with Patrick Eggle, Eggle Guitars, and with Michael Tobias.
Okay.
Tobias basses. And basically Danny taught me the skills of the trade and how to design, how to build guitars. And the idea was that I would build a guitar with him, take like 2 months. Well, it took us 2 years.
Okay.
Because I'll rock up there, it was in the evenings, rock up there, have a cup of coffee, chat for hours about guitar shit, and shit, we got to do something today. Let's make something. Yeah, tomorrow, next week. You know, we talked more than what we did, but because of all that talking, you know, we, my passion grew in the instrument. And Danny had a lot of knowledge, and I picked his brain, and that was the learning curve. But that's no 25 years ago now. When I did that.
And then moving forward after that experience and after the learning curve, was your main goal to say, okay, I want to build instruments, or was your goal to looking at what you're doing now, where you're designing guitar parts and coming up with your own designs and all kinds of stuff like that? Was that your goal, or like when you headed out after learning, what was your kind of focus?
When we came here, I set up in my garage a repair business to fix guitars, and that grew. And while I was still in Holland, some other friends of mine were distributors with guitars from a brand called Vintage.
Okay, yeah.
That was from England, from John Hornsby SKUs, all Trevor Wilkerson hardware on it. And I thought, well, let's try this distribution thing, Sounds interesting. So I bought 10 guitars, sold them in like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then we bought more and more, and I got really close with the magazines then, because internet wasn't a thing then yet. Internet was there, but YouTube did not exist then, and so I get tons of reviews from the magazines here, and we did well. We did really well. I made that brand from nothing to an established brand in 2 years, and then John Horsby's Q's had different ideas. They wanted to go with somebody else who said, I'll do bigger orders, where I already had a container ordered to be shipped from England. And they called me and said, Remco, your container is ready to dispatch from the port to you. Okay, great. Oh, and by the way, we got a new distributor in Melbourne.
No.
Wow.
So I dumped all those guitars on the market here, and the brand hasn't been seen again.
Really?
Yeah.
I fucked it up for them.
Yeah, it's something that happens quite a lot. I mean, you went this way, but I've seen it in this industry so many times where, somebody wanted to make a change and then it actually got worse. I remember when in the end, like at the end of the 90s, Line 6 came around with the pod, with the original pod, the red kidney kind of thing. And the guy who was running the whole thing in Europe, and he was really doing well, was a guy named Jacques Isler. He was the distributor back then. Guy from Switzerland that set up shop somewhere close to Frankfurt. And then he was doing so well, and he became so powerful and so important for Line 6 in Europe that they were afraid that they were losing control. And at some point they just cut him off. They just took a saw and there you go, legs.
Cut his legs off. Yep. Yeah. Well, that's similar what happened to me, Chris. So what I've done, that I called all my dealers. Say, guys, you can get the guitars for landing cost plus 10. Yeah. Which was like, a big margin, and they just bought everything. Yeah. And then we had like 2 little guitar shows here in Brisbane where I sold the rest off. And the guys that took the brand on, they thanked me.
Wow, yeah.
We got a container with guitars, Remco. What do we do with it? So, I don't know, burn them. Not my problem.
just leave them in the desert out to dry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just around the corner. So
we had that experience as being a distributor, and while I did that, I'm always the kind of a guy that wants to help out people. And I'm not saying I'm a big guy. I'm a nobody in this industry, but I was always like trying to get people together to work together. Mm-hmm. So I helped out some upcoming guitar brands from Australia to go to trade shows, because other friends of mine had a booth there, but didn't have the money for the trade shows. So I was like, well, why don't you guys come together, share one booth, and go for the show? And so this brand is doing really good now internationally. Not saying that's because of me, but I helped them out to move forward. Yeah. And I started up this little, because then you still needed like a sales rep to get your stuff in the stores here. Mm-hmm. So I started up this company called Guitar Market, and we were like with 5 or 6 different distributors together to get our products out. And they were from all over Australia, a guy from Perth and from Melbourne and Sydney, and 2 from here. And that did something, but it's a big market here. That's a problem. A big market, big country, small market. So eventually I stopped doing the wholesale stuff. Yeah. And got into being a guitar tech for a touring band.
Okay, wow. This
is the other side of the story again.
Yeah. That's interesting, because you essentially went from usually it's the other way around. Usually you do something that is related to music. Either you're making music yourself, or you might be I don't know, like working for a band, like in the case that in your case you worked for a band, and then afterwards you go into making something related to the MI industry, and you went the other way around, which is
it's actually even funnier. The guy that I became the tech for, Chris Peterson, was the editor from one of the Australian guitar magazines.
Okay.
And he was doing a lot of reviews for me for the guitars I was importing, so vintage, and I did Flexwood from Finland.
Yes.
So they did a lot of reviews for me, and him and I were on the phone constantly yapping about guitar shit. Was it effects pedals, touring rigs, whatever. And then his band got signed to Sony Music, and produced their album in LA with Matt Sorum and all kinds of guys. And they said, "Man, I need a guitar tech. You want to give it a go?" So, why not? So we toured around Australia. We did Singapore. We toured with Alice Cooper.
Nice.
And that went along for about 4 years. And then basically, it's like the band drama happened, and it stopped. So that was that. And then after that, when touring stopped, I was like, okay, what should I do now?
Yeah.
I still had my repair business going on, but I want to do something else. So I thought, you know what? I'll buy myself a CNC machine and start building guitars with CNCs, because I used to build them all with templates and a hand router and making the neck by hand and do all the hard work. Where I thought, a CNC machine, it looks a whole lot easier. Let's buy one. So I bought one from China.
Nice.
Got on the ship for 2 months or 3 months, whatever it took. And I was like, okay, and how do I do this? I had no clue. So I went on the internet and learned how to do CAD. It's like 3D drawings in SolidWorks. And then you have to do the CAM, which is then the language that the CNC can use. Are going to go up and down, the left, right, and center, and do all that stuff.
Right.
Okay.
So I taught myself all that to design guitars. And then while I got into that, I was like, you know what? Just for the fun, to see if everything fits, let's just design a copy of this Wilkinson tremolo.
Yeah.
So I can see that everything works. So I designed a Wilkinson, was it C100 or whatever calls it, a tremolo, to make sure it fits on the body that I wanted to machine out. And then I came back in my thoughts again about my conversations that I had with Danny, drinking coffee and not building guitars. About that, we always start talking about the evolution of the instrument. Where would it take us? Because it was already a massive step from the frying pan where it started, the electric guitar and the Rickenbackers, to then Parker fly guitars were then a big hit, in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
Having gonna go going from the frying pan, the Rickenbackers to the Parker fly is like, space age.
Yeah.
And in the shop we had a Steinberger, a headless one, in pieces, and it's like, oh, that's interesting, a headless guitar. And we were talking, and I started designing headless bridges. And I did some research on the internet, and I found this Japanese guy that did a lot of interesting stuff from Atlancia Guitar, I think. Atlancia, or something like that. Okay. And he designed together with Trevor Wilkinson a similar kind of bridge than what we do now. This kind of...
Like a single rail sort of bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, like that one.
Okay.
Yep. And I was like, that's a cool design, and it's Trevor Wilkinson on it. And because I did vintage, I had a little bit of a connection with Trevor because I did interviews with him and got him interviews. So I started to read into that, started designing it, and used my own brain to figure out, okay, it needs to be, this thick, this high, and so bit by bit we designed our first headless bridge. And then by sheer coincidence, one day I get an email from a guy from China. He said, "Oh, we sell and make guitar parts. Would you be interested in buying our guitar parts?" I was like, "I'm not interested. I'm actually looking for a manufacturer that can make shit." And that's now my business partner for 7 years now.
Wow, okay.
So I sent him a drawing, and I will get you the first one that we made. Hold on.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do show and tell.
Okay.
So that was the first design that we worked on.
Okay.
Does not work at all. This thing would spin around, and they were like, okay, so this does not work. Let's redefine it a little bit. So it became a little bit more sleek and still wasn't perfect. And then we came to this part, and I've been trying to work with a piezo on it, but that doesn't work out. But this is now the finished version that we've been using now for the last 5 years, I think already now, 6 years.
Wow.
Selling them, And yeah, from there, other things evolve, and I became really good in doing cat designs or designing for cat.
Design, okay. Now, I've been checking the website, and you do all kinds of like little problem solvers. Like a tram stabilizer, for example, which is like I guess everybody who's like somehow playing with a tremolo has, if they name one issue, usually it's like, sometimes I just want this thing to be, stay in place where it is, or I want it to return to the same place where it was. That's usually what people want. So it's like the tram stabilizer, but also the headless thing is something where you essentially cut yourself into an industry that was, I'm not gonna say headless is a niche kind of thing. The whole industry we work in is niche, but then headless guitars have become much more popular in the past, I'd say 10, 12 years or something, because of the form factor and everything. So at some point you must have had pretty good demand on those parts.
Oh, I'm always complaining, but
Nice.
But you're right. Yeah, see, we've got this is the board that I made for Guitar Summit, so it's easy to show. So this is the tram stabilizer that we do. So it's got like a spring.
Yeah.
So this part sits to the sustainer block, and then with this little screw wheel, you can actually lock it in, and it doesn't move. So
Nice.
That's a little problem that we try to solve. But yeah, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. I've got my hardware on the Harley Benton Dullahan.
Mm-hmm.
Sheer luck again, through connections, they ordered some samples through a Korean supplier called Huson Chorus. They are like a major factory or company that supply to guitar factories.
Yeah. I've heard of Wusan.
Yeah. So somehow our stuff got in their catalog, and it got into the hands of the factory that was going to build guitars for Harley Benton, because they were looking for a specific headless bridge where you still could put normal ball end. Yeah. Oh, there you go. I was like, something's going on here. Yeah. Use special ball end, what do you call it? Strings. Yeah. And so you didn't have to do buy special strings for it, or just all stock standard stuff. So this is just the old Dullahan model with our bridges on it. And in the beginning, it was a learning curve for all of us. We first had the single base plate bridges, because I'm selling them to luthiers, master builders. They go for 6, 7, 8. So that means I had to have like 6, 7, 8 solid base plates. And, what do you want them in? Black and gold and chrome. So I thought, I'd just do a mono base plate. It's easier for me to sell. Yeah. So that's what we first were selling to Harley Benton. But I didn't think of that. But mass production in guitars is a complete different thing than me building a guitar or any of my other luthiers building a guitar, because we can spend a half a day in making sure the bridges are all correct and lined up and perfect. But in the factory, right, the person that has to put the bridge on has got 5 minutes. Pump, done. So with the first batch that came out, there were some problems because the bridges were not all lined up. So the little turning wheels would touch each other, or other little issues that came up. So we heard that. I said to Harley Benton, so, well, why not make a solid base plate? We designed a solid base plate and bam, solved that problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to work with these kind of companies. There's a problem, call me. I try to solve it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So when you worked with them, how did that? So you said somebody made an introduction. No, so they ordered samples from the factory that you're working with, right?
How these parts ended up in Wusong Chorus,
Yeah.
I got no idea.
Oh,
Nobody
okay.
knows. It must be somebody went to the Shanghai show, and my partner Nick handed something over or whatever. But they got their hands on our bridges and started to use them. And then we got the orders in from Harley Benton, and we're like, "Who's Harley Benton?" I'm in Australia. we don't. Harley Benton is not a big brand here. I never heard of Tolman before that.
Oh, you didn't?
And it sounds really stupid that I've never heard of Tolman because the dog just comes home from doggy training.
Yeah.
Because we are so far away from the rest of Europe that not many people would order from Tolman because it's too expensive in shipping cost.
Yeah.
To get stuff over here. So yeah, I never heard of the brand. So I did some research. Oh shit, that's a big company. And then the orders came in, and yep.
Yeah, don't feel bad about not knowing Tolman, because I only learned about them through YouTube videos. I think it was a Glenn Fricker video where he ordered like whatever, a cab with a 1x12 or whatever, and he was like, "Oh my god, for the shipping price and the what it costs to make this, it's like you're basically just buying the speaker and you get the cab for free." And I was like, "Who the fuck is Tolman?" So I went online, started looking, and then I realized, like, these guys are not only big, but they've been around for a long time. So I was like, okay, so I need to do a little more studying, because all I knew from Canada was Long and McQuaid, and in the States I knew about Sweetwater, but I had never heard of Tolman before. So just like you, it's like I felt stupid for not knowing this. I'm like, probably the biggest fucking brand there is in Europe, and they're probably competitive with like Sweetwater. In terms of sales, they're probably even bigger, if not, twice as big.
They're the biggest
and then
now,
you learn about it, and you go, holy shit. These guys are not only big, but apparently the warehouse is absolutely insane.
Oh, it's humongous. But the stupid thing is, I am from Europe. I grew up there. I lived there for 20 years. And I just saw on your webpage, Frank, that you actually supply stuff to Muziek Productief.
That's not right now, not in the moment, but yeah, I did. Yeah, it's true. It's true, and obviously, if you grew up and lived around the area of Enschede, which is like super close to that area where Productief is and everything.
Oberhausen.
Oberhausen. Yeah, I'm situated and living in Cologne, so it's just all around the corner, right? And obviously for me it was a lot different not knowing who Tolman is. I started working in the industry in 97 in a very small shop in my hometown, like a family-driven business. And back then, at least from 99 on, we knew who Tolman was simply because of the fact that they were the first one with a somewhat commercial, like sales-driven website in the MI industry.
Yeah.
They were the first to have like a website where you could check all the stuff out. And then obviously online shop systems didn't exist back then, or not suitable enough. So you'd have to call and say, "Hey, I saw this thing on your website. I want to buy it." But that was like the first like proper model. And 99. Now it's like 25 years, and they are the biggest retailer in the world right now. So
we were there, and so before Music Messer, my wife and I, we flew to Holland, visit family, of course, and then we drove down to Bamberg, to Treppendorf to see the guys at Tolman, and of course had a meeting there with Lasser, who runs the whole Harley Benton thing, and saw the whole team that I've got so much contact with all the time, but we never met, only over WhatsApp or FaceTime, and it was just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The robotic system that it all works out, and all the guitars what come in or what they sell, they all get tested, checked out, and yes, these guys are working really hard because of the orders what they get in, and sometimes you miss a guitar or don't do the proper testing on it, but I found it just crazy just how that operation works, and see it being up close to have a tour there, which is then funny. You walk around the tour with the president of world music.
Yeah.
The biggest guitar factory in the world. I'm holding his hand because he's got a sore back to go over a step, over a robotic step. Walking in the factory, going to go like, well, Hank, just give me let me help you because I don't want you to fall. So through this stupid stuff again, you make other contacts again where you're going to go like, oh, that's the president of world music. I want to work with these people,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got lucky. I get in contact with people, and then the contact what I have, I share them with everybody again. It's like, my friends are your friends.
Yeah. You said that, well, you live in a big country, that's for sure, and you say it's a big country, but it's also a small market. Now, just looking at like numbers and looking from the outside, I kind of get a sense what the Australian like MI market looks like, but maybe you can share some insights. How do you think the market for musical instruments in Australia is different to the European or the US market?
Oh, when I started and came here and started my distribution, but since then and now, I think 70% of the music stores are gone.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, that's crazy.
There were some big changes here called Billy Heights. There was like a chain of music stores all around Australia, and they were like the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're all gone. You got little guitar stores here and there. But in Brisbane, for example, when I started, I think in the area we had like 10 guitar stores or music stores. Probably 3 left now.
Wow.
I think a lot of people buy online now. So, I don't know how the industry is here because I'm not selling in the retail market, so to speak. I'm selling to builders and to factories that want to use my hardware. I'm not so into the retail segment of that industry. That makes any sense.
Okay.
Because a guitar store isn't interested in a guitar bridge. Especially not the stuff that I design because it's a headless guitar. They go to a Strandberg and ask for a replacement. Or what. But the industry definitely changed here a lot.
Okay. Yeah, it's a similar thing that we see here in especially in Europe, not so much in the US. I mean, I would guess that in the US, like the dying of stores is somewhat slower because there's also a different kind of consume pattern in the US than in Europe. But we certainly in Germany, especially in the past, 4 to 5 years, so many stores, just went either bankrupt or they closed because the owner said, I'm retiring, no one is going to take over the store, or for whatever reason. But for the most case, because economically, it wasn't feasible anymore to run the store because there's no margin.
I think you also had COVID, which stopped everything.
Yep.
Well,
that ruined a lot. I know I went to my favorite guitar store in my hometown, Enschede, when we were there. Kai's guitar store.
Yeah.
And I walked in and asked the Kai, said, man, how are things going? Yeah, because he knows I live in Australia, and and he was like, we just barely survived.
Okay.
But it was that close before he could close the shop as well because everything stopped. And then bigger companies like Muziekproductief and Tolman, they could still go on because they had online stuff still happening. But even they suffered. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more ambivalent because obviously the stores that had an online outlet or that had some sort of or they were participating in a marketplace like Reverb or whatever marketplace people use. I think these people were still well off because when the pandemic started and people were not able to spend their money on holidays or things they could experience, they started spending on their money on, now I actually have all the money left that I can buy this like expensive guitar, or I can buy this amp, or people started to practice instruments because they were sitting at home and they couldn't go out, they couldn't do anything. So actually during that time, the whole industry had numbers they didn't expect. They didn't expect to come.
Oh, but that was just the crazy stuff of it, I had a conversation once with Lasse one night, and it was about some guitars coming from the factories. And he said, we can't get shipping containers. He said, stuff is sitting at the factories, and one factory had to hire up the factory next door that was building something completely different, but it couldn't do anything. For warehousing to put all the finished guitars in, because they couldn't get shipping containers around the world. There were no shipping containers, and then they finally got shipping containers, shipped the shit from Asia to Europe, and then that accident happened in the Suez Canal happened.
Oh, that one
where that ship blocked. That was
the canal.
And then, they had the problem all of a sudden that the market started to open up again. And all the orders that they placed with the factories all of a sudden came in at one place, that even at Tolman at the warehouse, they couldn't store that stuff. They're running out of space.
Yeah, it's true. And
it's funny because you can see it everywhere now, because all of a sudden there was such an influx of guitars everywhere that... you go on a second-hand market and you can buy a shitload of guitars.
Yeah, it's certainly true. There is a it seems like this industry doesn't learn from its mistakes. I know that around the 2006, 7, 8, something like that, there was a huge like retro wave of guitar-driven music, and everybody wanted to play guitar, so everybody bought guitars, and all the manufacturers were like, damn, this is the new gold era, we have to produce. So they produced shit tons of guitars, but instead of like looking at, okay, how is this wave eventually rolling off, what they didn't do, they didn't look close enough, and they produced, and at some point everybody had guitars. The market was saturated, and then they were like, what the hell are we going to do with all these guitars? And then they were sitting on them, and it seems like the same thing happened with COVID, where you had like everybody suddenly spent money in guitars and guitar-related stuff, and were all coming with all these emotionally driven buying decisions, and manufacturers started producing again, with the result that they produced so much that at some point Fender had to lay off 300 people because they couldn't pay the bills anymore. So it's
If I may, my observation with this is that the music industry, like the gear-related industry, as far as I can see it, is so different than, let's say, if you're a farmer and you're selling eggs, right? You have a pretty good estimate on what your client is going to want to buy from you, because they have a certain amount they can hold in stock. So it's pretty, the numbers don't fluctuate so much. You know about what you need to produce to send out. With the gear industry, as you just pointed out, Frank, it's trends, right? It's like COVID hits. Oh, I want to learn to play guitar because, I can't work for the next whatever, how many months. So I'm going to take up guitar. And then people hear about that online. They go, fuck yeah, man, I want to play guitar too. So everyone starts to buy guitars. But it's not because there's a need for it. It's because it's a trend. And it seems to be the thing. Like we were talking like niche market. Like let's say we're talking headless guitars. Well, headless guitars are going to be for the people that want to have that type of look, that type of design. They want this. But to some people, that might be a trend, just like something like a Bigsby on a guitar is a trend. Is it the most useful bridge in the world? No, but Bigsby still sells because some people like the look. Some people like the more vintage approach to it. And I think that's what creates, at least from my perspective, the instability in this market is that every 10 years, there's something new. Like there, for a while there, it was all the gent stuff and the deathcore. So you had all like the sleek guitar, very ergonomic. And then you're going to have some new thing that comes along, and then people are going to start playing old beat up Telecasters again. Or, you know, they're going to go back to big 100-watt amp, or they might switch all to small boards because it's trendy. It's like, oh, this new thing came out. It sounds awesome. I don't even need to use my tube amp anymore. Let's go ampless. And we have all these spikes and dips in sales, and it makes it so hard for companies to predict where the market's going to go. And I think that might explain why we see stores closing down. If the stores are like, okay, I'm going to order this many guitars because I know these guitars are a sure value. What if they're not? What if in the next 6 months, everyone starts to grow their hair long and they're getting back into this heavy metal thing with pointy guitars? Now you got all these Fender Strats on your wall, but they all want like the pointy shit. What are you supposed to do? You know? And I think that's probably one of the reasons.
It's already on a very short. It's already on a very short period already, just with colors.
Yeah.
You know, I hear the stories all the time when I talk to my customers. They're gonna go like, "Oh, you know, black was hip last month. Now we got to do everything pink." You know, it's so crazy. But if you look at the sheer numbers of guitars that have been produced in the world every year, where do they end up?
Yeah.
You know, if you look at all those numbers every year, there must be somewhere a mountain where we can fill up, you know, the ocean with just guitars, because it must be crazy the amount of guitars that are produced worldwide. If you just look at the big companies already, you know,
it's all the YouTubers,
Gibson, Ibanez, PRS. Yeah, they end up in YouTubers, but it's like the guitar pick, you know. They always
like
end
you
up
see all these YouTubers with like 50 fucking guitars behind them. That's who's driving the market.
Hard to say. It's like me, you know. I got too many guitars, you know.
I can see a part of that ocean of guitars behind you, Remco.
Well,
see, pointy guitars. You know? Told you.
yeah. Well, that's an old Explorer, but yeah. So most of the stuff is what I built, you know. But yeah, I can do some more show and tell later on. You know, I've got
for sure.
A lot of interesting stuff to show you.
So I have a little interjection.
The industry, it's so, as you said, you know. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Remco.
The industry is so emotionally with people, you know, and the way I see, you know, musicians and especially guitar players, they are a very emotional bunch of people.
Yeah.
You know, bass players are much more open-minded, like, oh, this sounds good. Where a guitar player is going to go like, but, you know, has to be vintage, but not this. And you got to stick to the old 52, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like shit. But it's, you know, and then you bring it out and then they're complaining about it. It sounds like shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's being someone who's been doing this for a long time now, I've seen so many trends throughout the decades that it's really hard for me to quantify why it is that musicians do what they do, especially guitar players. But I remember there was a time in the 80s. So I was just like a little guy starting to play guitar. And the big thing was like the rack mount units. So you had like the ADA preamps and JMP1 and all this stuff, Roland GP8s, and there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So I remember jamming with guys that were much older than me. So I'm 16 years old. I have a 65 Fender Tremolux with like this fucking little shitty unit for distortion. I have my Gibson Les Paul, and these guys are playing Kramers and Jacksons, and they got the Floyd Rose, the whole thing, and they got these big fridge behind them, right? And I remember that was trendy, and I felt like shit because I didn't have a fridge. I didn't have a fridge like them, and I didn't have a pointy guitar with the sock headstock. And I was like, man, look at me. Stupid fucking old grandpa guitar Les Paul. And I have this old shitty Fender. It's like and we bought that Fender for like $400 back in the day. Fast forward to now, the rack mount. Yeah, it completely reversed. That Les Paul that I bought for whatever $800 sells easily for $3,000 now, if not more. And that Fender Tremolux, I couldn't even afford to buy one. They're so fucking expensive. So it's these trends. And how do you trust a trend when it's just that? It's trendy. It has nothing to do with reliability or the quality of the sound. It's just the latest fad, and everyone jumps on it. And sometimes I find myself kind of catering to that. Like, I'm like, yeah, a Klon. I think I need a fucking Klon. Everybody needs a Klon, right? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's trendy, because John Mayer played with one. And then I try the Klons and I go, I don't like it. Yeah. And I try them and I don't like it. But I don't want to get rid of the pedals that I have, because I'm thinking, well, what if I change my taste in the future? What if I end up loving the Klon and it ends up being the best fucking pedal in the world? See, it's fickle. We can't seem to make up our minds. So these trends, they're influenced by people who are influencers. And, you got John Mayer coming along, and I don't think he wants to influence us, but he has something on his pedal board. Some dude makes a video about it. Everyone loses their fucking minds. Like, oh my God, he's playing a modified BD2. We all need an Analog Man modded BD2. Oh, no, fuck that, man. Get the Keeley Fat mod. It's the same pedal.
Yeah, but
where does it end?
Extra knob on it that does that. Yeah.
It's like, where does it end?
When I started to play guitar, I was very old. In learning to play guitar, I was 23. When I picked up my first guitar, when I bought the guitar, and I was working like crazy hours in catering, so never had actually time to practice. But when I had time to practice, I had to go to guitar lessons, and the guy was like, "And did you practice this week?" So yeah, and that went on for like 3-4 years, and I made some kind of progress. And then I went to the North Sea Jazz Festival in The Hague.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Satriani was there.
Oh.
And that was it. I want that guitar. Mm-hmm. I want to sound like him. I want to play like him. So I bought a lookalike kind of a guitar. Played like shit. Action, like, you could fly a jumbo jet under it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to play like him. My fingers were bleeding, and it's like, this can't be it. So I started modifying the guitar, but that's how I learned how to start repairing guitars. But I wanted that, and it's just, everybody wants to play a Les Paul now, because Slash got a Les Paul, and now everybody wants to switch from a Marshall to, what's his new amp?
Magnatone.
Tube or whatever.
Yeah, Magnatone.
So everybody will switch now to Magnatone because Slash is playing a Magnatone.
Yeah.
Will I sound like Slash? Hell no.
Fuck. Yeah, that's
no.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I always. It always comes down to marketing. It's it always has to do with marketing. Apparently in this industry, either you're successful because you have something that is like so different and so unique that people want it, or it's something that is super affordable for what it is, so people want it, or you have something that is essentially the same thing that everybody else does, but your marketing is so good that people want it, so that
I want to meet that guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because that's one thing that I can't do. I'm just the worst marketing guy. I don't know how to do it. I'm passionate about my stuff, and when I'm at trade shows, I can talk to people about my shit. But the marketing, how to do all that, how to figure out what will sell, and do this kind of promotion thing and all that. I'm a one-man show, I do the webpage, I do the ordering, I make the invoices, I clean the toilet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Although, forget about the toilet. But you know what I mean?
For the marketing part, it's something that I'm really interested in. Like, I love the marketing part. Many years ago, I took a course in graphic design, and we were looking at the psychology of consumers. So I'm not a pro at all. I'm just going to put this out there. I'm not a pro. It's just what I've learned throughout the years. And you look at the influence that these companies are trying to have on musicians, oftentimes they miss the fucking mark. They're so way off, it makes no sense because they come from an old marketing concept that they're trying to replicate for themselves. They're going, oh, well, this used to work back in 1985. It still must work in 2024. And the truth is, the landscape has changed so much that some of the most brilliant people in marketing are actually fucking teenagers and people in their 20s. They understand this business far more because they know how to relate to a younger audience. So when you look at them, they start up on stuff like, Snapchat and Twitter and TikTok and all this stuff. And they manage to build these empires worth millions of dollars. And they're kids. And here we are, old farts, trying to figure this shit out, trying to find out, how do I connect with the right people? We're not using the right tools. And I think that's where, if companies really wanted to market to the right people, they would have to get someone who understands the demographic they're trying to change, that they're trying to reach. It's super important.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
So
I am
it's
so bad at that I don't know TikTok. Friends tell me, "Oh, you got to do TikTok." I said, "I'm not going TikTok." What's that TikTok? That's what a clock says. Those TikTok. And then Instagram and Facebook, and it's just too much.
You need a marketing team for that, because if you're on your own, and let's say I would work with you. Okay, you're like, Jonathan, you're going to take care of my marketing. Okay, well, that means I have to learn YouTube and learn to read the analytics and understand the analytics, interpret this information, and turn it into something that progressively will start to show bigger numbers and have more success. And then I'm going to have to learn Instagram, and that's going to be the same thing in TikTok. But every single audience out of all these media platforms all have a different attention span, and they're there for very different reasons. So let's say I grab one of your products and I want to showcase, let's say, the B&G bender on TikTok. I would have to make something like that's super ridiculous that would grab people's attention right away. It's like, hey, almost be a fucking clown. So you got to get the right face, because it's just this guy on TikTok. Who the fuck's going to watch me? They're going to be a fucking old fart. They're going to keep going, right? So that's the part with the marketing that I think companies really need to understand. The social media platform they're using, they can't be excellent at all of them. Choose one or try them all out and see which one works best, and then really go deep on that one. Like we had Chris from Jupiter Effects on for episode 4, and he's mainly on Instagram, and that's his thing, and he's really rocking Instagram. But he tried YouTube and just didn't convert to the same kind of results that he wanted. So that's, and I watched his Instagram. I follow him, and the way they do it is smart. Like, there's just these little tidbit information. It's good for the people that are already owners of the gear, but if they don't own the gear and they might be interested, he's giving you like the goods right away. So that's, I think that's the marketing going forward now, is just one-on-one with your audience, and then build that relationship into customers that are going to become loyal customers.
Yeah. Which, you got to ask your kids. Sometimes I have to ask my kids to change something on my phone. You feel like you're stupid, I'm not a stupid
like a senior citizen.
Can you just change this on my phone? Well, actually, can you make it a little bit bigger, the letters, because I can't read it? And they're like, oh, Dad, you know nothing. You're so stupid. Oh, you old fart. Then you just come back and say, well, I might be an old fart, but, I'm that guy who taught you how to wipe your ass and eat without making your face dirty. That's all basic stuff that everybody should do. I taught you that, so.
I got a trick for you guys, because I know you're all fathers. The one trick I have is my kids think I'm stupid. So then I show them that they're stupid too, because my kids all have phones. And at one point I'm like, you guys know I can look at all of what you're doing, right? Even though you erased the history. And they're looking at me like I'm full of shit. And I was full of shit. But I bluffed and I won. I said, do you know there's an app that comes with the modem? And I can just go on and see your IP number, and I can see exactly where you go and how much time you spend. But it's bullshit. I don't have that app. But dude, you should have seen their faces. They're all there like, it wasn't me, it was her. It's like, yeah. The old fart. I just made up something that my fucking modem doesn't do, but I had the credibility all of a sudden. So then whenever they grab my phone to do something, I'm like, what are you going to do? Do you think I don't know it? And sometimes I really don't know it. But I just want them to think I'm way more tech savvy than I am, just to keep a bit of control. Because I don't want to feel like a senior citizen that doesn't know, like, is this how I hold my telephone? It's not a telephone, Grandpa. It's a cell phone. Is this the phone?
Well, that's how... that's how I feel sometimes. And you know what? I don't care. You know, I figured out how to do cat designing and, you know, design all that stuff. You know, I don't see my son doing that.
Exactly.
You know, he's brilliant in his pharmacy work. You know, ask him any pill or for any ill, he can help you out with that shit. But
right,
you know, everybody's got their thing, what they can do, and marketing. It's
hard.
It doesn't tickle me. You know, it's hard. No. I find it boring. You know, I'd rather have somebody else doing it. So if you find somebody, just put his hand up. You know, I'll get them. Yeah. Because it's not my cup of tea. You know, I can't sit there and make these videos and be the clown to talk about stuff.
That's the thing too with the marketing. It's like you're making videos, but you don't want to be too drab because it's not a PowerPoint presentation. So there has to be some entertainment level. There has to be some educational level. And you have to merge these together so that the person watching has a reason to listen to you blab for 10 minutes. Because if you're bringing no value whatsoever, it's just self-gratification, people are just going to bail out. They're going to be like, what the fuck am I watching this idiot for? Right? And that's where you have to fine tweak. You have to learn from what you're doing. So I think this relationship between YouTubers and companies is super important because companies sometimes don't have the resources to get an audience to see what they're doing. So let's say they get someone like Henning or someone like Andy Ferris, guys like that have huge audiences. They know how to present, they understand the product, and they just distill it down for their audience so that they don't have to buy it, find out it's not for them, you know, and have this shitty relationship with the company. They're kind of like, yes, a middleman, but it's a middleman that is saying, I think this is great for these people, and I think this is not great for these types of people. So depending who you are, this might be what you're looking for. And there's not just one dude making that video. There's a bunch of people making that video. So you can make an informed decision without having to purchase it right away. So by the time you do buy something like, let's say, the B&G bender, you know what the fuck you're getting into. And if you don't know how to align the little screws, like we were talking about earlier.
That's why we make now a printout so you can check it if it fits.
Yeah.
Make it idiot proof.
Do I put this on my Gibson Les Paul?
Oh, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
No. It's your fault then because you said it will fit. I said it will fit on a Telecaster, not on that strap. Yeah.
There you go.
They're not the same guitars, folks.
But you know, it's that love-hate relationship with YouTubers. It's funny when we met at a Guitar Summit. Well, you know, I was raging a bull there because I was so angry.
Yeah, I could tell.
We spent a shitload of money to go there, and none of the YouTubers were there. Well, Andy was there, but he was, you know, with this big truck that he was carrying around. He was not be able to come upstairs where we were, and I got a connection with Henning, you know, and Henning and I, we've got this love-hate relationship with each other. You know, we give each other shit, and then we laugh again. You know, it's that European kind of, you know.
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm part German, so if he talks shit to me in German, I understand what he's saying, you know. But but you know, Henning came to our floor on the last day, on the last minute when you already left, and he said all this stuff about Guitar Summit, why they didn't come, and all this stuff, and it made me angry, you know, because at that show, it's those people that make the show last for me a very long time. You know, it's like with you. If I would not have pulled you out, I'm gonna go like, "Oh, you got a camera. You're not gonna go away," you know. Here's that 6-string with the banana frets in there. Sit down and fucking play it. And you're like, "Oh, okay." Playing, and that's how we built up this relationship now. And well, I hope you're not angry. But,
I'm not whatsoever. It's funny though, because
it was like, "There's a guy with a camera. Come here."
Yeah, it's funny because I think I told this story on the podcast at some point, but I think it's worth retelling. So I was only supposed to be there one day. Had I been there one day, we wouldn't have met at all because I had barely any time on the third floor, and I think that was one of the issues I had with Guitar Summit is that it's on 3 floors, and it seems the higher up you go, the smaller the companies, so they get less exposure. So if you're downstairs, you are distracted by a lot. There's a lot going on, right? Yep. And if you didn't know, Remco, Frank was doing all the interviews for Guitar Summit. So he was the dude sitting down talking to Doug Aldrich and all these people there, and he was doing that. And then he had to run over to his booth and try to talk to people about his own pedal. So he was fucking busy. Oh yeah, he was.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
He was really busy throughout the whole thing, and so I'm going around, right? I'm going through the floors, and I stayed an extra day for the Saturday because Frank told me, he said, "Look, the Sunday there's not much going on. It's more like family oriented. So if you don't really need to stay an extra day, don't. But you should stay for the Saturday." So then I go upstairs, and I see all this cool stuff going on. And I got my little GoPro with a little microphone on top, and I got my kid with me, and I'm walking around. And then all of a sudden, I see this guy. He's like, "Hey, you got a camera? You're a YouTuber?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Have you ever seen this?" And then he starts to show me stuff, but I could tell he was irate. I could tell, like, he had enough, but he was still very nice. Remco was still very nice, but he was like, "Put a fucking camera on this shit. I want to show my stuff. That's what I'm here for." I told him, I said, "Yeah, man, I'll show your stuff. I'll put it in videos." And the same thing with Kenzo. He had his guitar with the banana frets and tried his guitar. And I was like, "Man, there's a lot of great ideas here. Why are you guys stuck in this little corner? You should be like at least downstairs where more people could see you." No, I even talked about your the guitar neck that you do for like Floyd Rose equipped guitars, where you have only these little switches. Yeah, because we need to see this, because I talked about it on the podcast, but we hadn't seen it.
So is this one you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly, that one.
Yeah. So you've got that. There's a Floyd Rose full floating, and there we go. So now it's in drop D, because the scale length is longer.
Yeah.
And now it's in E.
Oh, so it's like some sort of like single string capo.
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah.
It's actually, it comes from Kubicki bass guitars.
Okay.
That's where the design came from. And again, you know, that comes again through making contacts with people. They said like, "Oh, I would love to have an idea like that." So like, I'll figure out something. And so we built it now for guitars. And this is a guitar that a friend of mine here in Australia made, ET Guitars, Ernie Taylor. He builds like really cool guitars. And he started actually making copies of the Jam.
Okay.
Like with the whole floral pattern and Tree of Life inlay and all that stuff. That's how he started like 15 years ago. And this is an old Japanese RG body.
Right.
And he just fit the neck on it. Just to show that if you want to get the drop D with a full floating tremolo, which doesn't exist. Yeah, because on the Eddie Van Halen guitar, you basically...
You have the D tuner, yeah.
D tuner, which lowers the tension of the E string to a D.
Yes.
So then the whole tremolo basically pops up. That's why it's a fixed bridge. Or fixed bridge, you can only dive and not up.
Right.
Or pull back, yeah.
Yeah, so stay down. But yeah, so we do all that stuff, and when I booked in for Guitar Summit, this comes from a complaint now about Guitar Summit. they came up with like, oh, you're gonna get all this marketing. We are from Bass und Guitar magazine, so they will come and highlight your brand, and we do interviews, and the people will come along, and I was like, great. I got my YouTube friends there, Glenn Fricker. Well, he didn't come, but Henning, because Henning already met with Kenzo when they did the island tour, and they went to the Philippines. And Kenzo, when I heard they were doing it, I said to Kenzo, you build some guitars and meet these guys, when they are there, because Perfecto, the guy that lives from or comes from the Philippines, was also part of that tour, and he was also in Mannheim. So everybody knew each other, and I said to Kenzo, build 2 guitars and show yourself there. This is a great way. And then they said, man, come to Guitar Summit. So Kenzo's not a rich guy. He lives in the Philippines, running his small repair business now with some people that he helped from the street to give them a trade. And this is why I love this guy. When COVID hit, this young couple, there were cultural dancers in the hotels. He took them in because they were kicked out of the hotel because there were no hotel guests. So they were homeless, living on the street.
Wow.
Girl was pregnant. And he just kept them in. So he's now a grandfather already. And he calls me his dad. So I'm a great grandfather already for whatever reasons. So when Kenzo had this good feedback from the YouTubers in Manila, he was like, okay, Remco, I'm going to save up money and work on it to come over. And it was really a struggle to get him over because you needed a visa to get out of the Philippines. Then you needed to get a visa to get into Germany. And that was all like last minute. It was stressful for both of us because I was relying on him for the guitars. Because I couldn't bring everything with me from Australia because, transport is so expensive.
Yeah.
And he arrived on the Friday, like at 2 or 3 o'clock at the show, because he was just running from the airport to get to Mannheim to the show. Yeah. And then no YouTubers.
Yeah.
Where are they? The mega Guitar Summit promised us these and that and that and that. And there was a metal magazine. They would come out and do stuff. And nobody came on Friday. Well, somebody comes on Saturday. Nobody on Saturday. And then late in the afternoon, Jonathan walked around there. And I was like, one YouTuber. I was furious. We spent a shitload of money on that show. And we got nothing out of it. Because, as I wanted to say before, the YouTubers make visiting videos at the store, at our store. What do you got? Oh, we got such and such. We got that guitar neck and blah, 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 blah. They make like little videos of a compilation of the Guitar Summit. It doesn't cost us much or sometimes nothing. But people watching those videos are going to go, ooh, what's that? That's cool shit.
Yeah.
Let's check out that company. And we got nothing of that. It was the people at the show that saw us, and that's it. They won't. If you ask 10 people, if it was Apollo Music Parts there and what did they do, they wouldn't have a clue because they saw us, but it didn't register. Yeah. And after the show, I sent a really big email to Guitar Summit that I was very disappointed and angry that they did not liaise with the YouTubers to get them there, because my understanding, what Henning said, is that all what we wanted was some cross advertising.
Yeah.
They would say, 42 Gear Street is here, and 6-string guitar and whatever on the webpage, which doesn't cost a cent.
Yeah, there was so just to put in another kind of view on the thing, not only as Guitar Summit hired me to do these artist interviews in that stage on the basement, which essentially from the money they paid me to do that, I essentially was able to pay my trip. I was able to pay my participation in the booth. I had a booth with a couple of buddies of mine, Jupiter Effects, Barclay Guitars, and so I was able. So I actually went there, and I, apart from like food and drinks, that was the only thing that I actually had to pay out of my own pocket. Everything else was essentially balanced with the money that Summit paid me for these interviews. So on the financial side, I did not have a loss. However, I'm in the same position as you. The show, like being on the show, investing the time, being there, standing around all day, trying to talk people, trying to attract people, etc., etc., did not really do anything for me. So it's not like afterwards, like the orders came crashing in, whatnot. So it didn't do anything for me at all. It was a fun time meeting people, being face to face with a lot of people that I know from the industry. But that's about it. But then,
but that is always fun.
Yeah, but that's always fun. But the thing is that you can have that for a lot cheaper, obviously, especially for someone like you.
Oh, I don't have to spend $20,000 flying down from Europe and spend hotels. And, I paid for the accommodation for Ken, so he had to get his own flight. But I paid for the room that we were staying in and made sure he was wined and dined. The 69, he had to take care of himself. But, but I took care of him. I want something back.
Obviously.
In the longer run.
Obviously. That's
they did that really bad. And my last comment, what I said to, I think, Christy Hose.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
Who's organizing everything, he said, if you guys don't change your shit, you're just going to end up like Mesa.
Yeah. My impression of the show was because to this day, it was the biggest version of Guitar Summit as far as like people exhibiting and people going there, like visiting. However, I think that they oversold the space by quite a bit because so many companies wanted to go. I still remember the 2022 Guitar Summit. I went there and it was still, everything was very organized. I mean, it was the first event after COVID, so obviously some people might still be careful and whatnot. But I went there and I was like, okay, it was still very organized. There was enough space, but also it was quite crowded and people wanted to go there. And there was a huge variety of people exhibiting. And then when I arrived last year, when I had all my stuff in the car to set up the booth and everything, I came out of the parking lot, I was like, what the hell is going on here? So it was so full, it was so packed. You enter the building and immediately it's booths, bam, 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 everywhere. And so my impression of the show and kind of my resume is they oversold the spaces and they didn't organize the spaces really well by like giving everybody the same attention. So if you put all the favorites in the basement, then people might spend an entire day in the basement or in the first floor, and they won't even bother going to the second floor. So the setup wasn't fair enough. That's my point of critique, and that's something that I told them afterwards when they wanted feedback from me as well. And I was like, guys, to be honest, we were situated in a space where people would go out for a smoke or where people would go out because they wanted to leave the event. So obviously the whole thing didn't do much for us. I was lucky to be in a booth with people that have a certain following so that I get some attention. But other than that, it didn't do much for me. And regarding the whole YouTuber thing, yes, I fully agree. This whole thing needs to be a bit more collaborative with YouTubers. I understand what Henning told me after the show, and when he told me like, we just wanted some representation on the website. It doesn't cost you anything, all the media partners have representation. Why not us. We are also media partners. You know, we're also bringing. So I understand Henning's point 100%, but also, you know, it's not like Guitar Summit didn't offer anything at all to YouTubers.
Oh no, they gave them stuff, but
they give them a hotel.
Still, you know,
they give them the hotel for free, and they give them the food for free, which for a lot of YouTubers is already quite a lot, because then the only thing they have to worry about is the trip. You know, so. So I understand both sides, and I think both sides need to come together again, sit on a table, and come to an agreement, because otherwise, what you just said before was right, is going to end in people not being interested exhibiting anymore, simply because they won't get enough attention also in the aftermath, you know, of the show.
Well, that's one thing what I said to Chris. He said, if money is a case, then book one artist less. You know, I like Greg Koch, for example. He was there.
Yeah.
He's not going to be cheap.
No.
I don't benefit from it. You know, as a stallholder, I don't benefit from the show that Greg Koch is going to be there. You know, there could be some other musician going to be there. I don't benefit from it. Yes, people come and see them, but most of the people go to the venue. It's like I was upstairs, and yet then all the what do you call it? These little talk things. These what do you call them? Seminars.
Yeah.
People go in a seminar, bam, out. You think, oh, there will be traffic. Nah, they go straight away, out again. They don't even watch your stuff. So we don't benefit from that.
That's that's one of the things that's something that I told them in 2022 already, where they were like, we had like, this was like the best Guitar Summit with the most visitors. But also I noticed a lot of people that went to the, because I mean, there are the seminars that everybody can attend, and there are the master classes that you have to pre-book and you have to pay for. And I saw a lot of people entering the event, lining up for the masterclass, then being led to the masterclass, and then afterwards, because I was essentially where they would enter and leave with the booth, and then after the masterclass, they would eat something at one of the finger food things outside, and they would go home. They didn't stay. They didn't stay at the event, and in the same way, a lot of people who want to see play, you know, Doug Aldrich and Greg Koch and all these guys, they're gonna go there. They're gonna enjoy making a picture with Greg Koch or whoever is there, and enjoy a little bit of time and like a small talk with the guy, and then they're gonna wander around. But for them, it has more like a festival character, not so much of a, you know, I'm gonna go and discover products.
Yeah, and it doesn't benefit us as the guys that basically put the show together. You know, it's a funny thing. When I started in the industry here in Australia, I was the youngest distributor. And yet the AMAC, so the Australian Music Association, and they copied the NAMM thing. Yeah. And the first show that we were there, they had like a breakfast meeting in the morning, because you got to be a member of it. So you had all the blah, 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 the numbers of the year. And I was sitting there and he just asked me, so when do we have a public day? Huh? What do you mean? Well, when is the public coming in? Because I was here at the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
No, we don't have a public day. This is industry only. Why? Well, because, you know, we kind of get a public in here, because then one of the retailers start to speak up. Well, what now? If you sell a guitar to the public, then I miss a sale. Yeah, but I'm paying for this fucking show.
Yeah. Great.
If I may add here,
you know,
what I'm seeing from what you guys are saying, because you have to keep in mind, I don't sell anything, right? So I'm just some guy goofing off on YouTube. My perspective on Guitar Summit, it was great for me as someone who's just walking around getting to make new contacts. But what I noticed is that everybody that was there was expecting to get some free marketing. They were expecting people to come to them and put them out. And I think that the business, like the marketing model, not the business, but the marketing model for Guitar Summit is too much based on NAMM. And that might be where they should change it. They should really focus on content creators coming in, and having access to all these different companies. So that way, let's say, I don't know, I'm a big YouTuber, I have 100,000 subscribers, and I discover your company. So Apollo Music Parts. Okay, so what do you guys do? Well, we do this. I don't know, this is not for me. How about this? Oh, that I could use. Okay, cool. So you make a deal with this person. The person gives you a demo, or they come in, they film, and they put it on their YouTube site, and you have that one exposure. But that's just one. So look, I was there. I don't have the biggest reach. I made a video about our encounter, what I filmed over there, and then I did a demo for you. But imagine if you would have had 30 YouTubers who would have done the same thing. Right?
That was the idea, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just one guy with a small channel doesn't do much. It doesn't push that much air.
Oh.
But the reason why you're there is you understand that now the new media, the free media, is content creators. So if you can grab them when they're not too big, they'll work with you for free sometimes. Yeah. And you get to send them stuff, they demo for you. But if you could have like 30 people like that doing that, that would give you a fucking break. Because you're not Fender. You can't afford to pay people thousands of dollars to demo your shit, right?
No.
So that's the other thing too, is that we content creators have to understand that there are different levels in this business. You got the people that are doing this, like Frank was doing, where he builds pedals, but he has a job. You know, he's doing this because he's passionate about it, but he's not living off of the pedals. So if, like Frank did, and I'm going to say it, but Frank gave some pedals to some people so that they would do demos, and they didn't do the fucking demos.
Yeah.
They didn't.
He's not Fender. He can't afford to send shit out and not have people do the fucking demos. So to him,
because these people think that it's just a fucking pedal, it's a $50 pedal, you know, who cares? But no, it's like a $200 pedal, and all the other shit I had to throw away because I had to create this pedal. You know,
exactly.
all the mishaps that you make, you know, that's, you know, it costs thousands of dollars to design something, you know, and that's the frustration that you sometimes walk into, that people don't realize that, you know, the B&G bender, for example, that cost us thousands of dollars because the base plate is pressed and the mold broke.
Oh, okay.
So we had to make a new one, you know. Wasted thousands of dollars to make a new mold to do that, so we get the consistent stuff, because the first batch we machined, but then you get these little machining stripes and you can't take that away.
Okay.
No matter what you try, you know, so we have to do the casting thing, spend money. Oh, well, it's this thing has to be so much. Well, yeah.
I'm just gonna demonstrate that here for everybody who's actually watching this and not only listening to this. So that's one of your inventions. I know that Jonathan made a demo of it.
Yeah.
How did you get to the idea? Was the idea that you wanted to do something that's easier to handle than the original Fender thing where you have to like lower your strap in order to bend?
I told you I was a guitar tech for this touring band, and the guitar player Chris Peterson and I, you know, we're still close mates. And he called me and he said, "We're talking guitar shit all the time." He said, "You know what would be cool if you had a B bender on the guitar where you don't have to fuck up the guitar."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. So would you buy one then if I would make one? I said, "Oh yeah." And so. How would it function then? Would it be, because you have to pull it backwards, eh? Yeah. Okay, how far do you have to pull it? Well, you just go a semitone or a tone, and okay. And I just started noodling. And yeah, that is what came out of it. So this is what we call in the B&G bender short, because for people that have a guitar with a humbucker on it.
Okay.
Or lap steel.
Or lap steel, right, yeah.
Slide guitars. Yeah, which I think there's a photo under there where I got a slide on my webpage as well. Not sure. But
this is the shop, so I'm not sure, but
that's a shop. Hold on, I'll just grab one. Hold on.
So yeah, that's the one for Telecasters. That one looks great.
Yeah, for typical Telecaster like what I have on mine.
So this is like, you know, your slide guitar.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you can just
Right.
Play a slide here. And
that's the one.
Yeah,
it was also one of those things where I had a full one. Yeah, like that.
Mm.
And a friend of mine in America said to me, he said, Rem, could you play or make this on a slide guitar?
Right.
So I can't see why not. So I put the angle grinder on and you cut the thing in half. And I had this slide sitting here with just a fixed bridge on it. And I just, how long? Cut it off, put it on, and yeah, it works. So now you got people buying it and building their slide guitars out of it.
Nice. Oh, there it goes.
That one fell.
That's going to cost you.
Yeah. Well, got it for free.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
but yeah, so out of coincidence, the short one came out. So basically, all my stuff comes out of little accidents, so to speak.
yeah.
Good example for I've got this friend I told you about who works for Leo Fender,
Mm-hmm.
and he makes now banjip ukuleles
Okay.
and electric guitars. So his first model that he made was with this type of a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum, it's just standard Fender bridge. I don't know, sure if you can hear it over these little microphones, but
Oh yeah.
can you hear the difference in volume already?
Volume and sustain. It definitely rings out longer. That's for sure.
And sustain. And it's just because of my monorail bridges.
Right.
He came to me and he showed them to me. He said, have a few of those bridges and put them on your ukuleles and see if it does anything. And he came back to me and said, right, it's like a 10 dB difference in volume and in sustain. So now when they're going to make a production with those bridges on it and push that
And that's
here on the Australian market, because the ukulele is still a very popular instrument here.
yeah, and that's because each of the bridges has like a higher mass to them.
Yeah, it's solid. Well, I'll show you it here. So it's this. So it's solid brass.
Yeah.
And then you've got this little thing here. So that's the slider for your intonation. And then the saddle. And that's basically where my whole design is based on, is on full contact.
Okay.
If you got that strat bridge that I saw you got two little M3 grub screws. And then you got the string in the middle. So all your vibration of the guitar string has to go through these two little grub screws. Because basically how it works, you strum a string, starts to vibrate on the neck, goes into the bridge, actually absorbs in your body, into the guitar body, into the string, into the pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you got two little grub screws, it doesn't resonate completely. So, and if you got then this full contact with these round saddles, there's a constant vibration happening.
Oh.
So you got much more contact with the bass of the guitar, and therefore you get a much rounder sound and a fuller sound than on two little M3 grub screws.
Nice.
And we go even further now with this technique, and I thought it would be utter bullshit, but I'll show you something. So this is a guitar that I bought for Muziek Productief
Okay.
when I was still living in Holland. Yeah. Now, next week or the week after, a friend of mine, Doug de Jong, he was at the Guitar Summit as well. He lives down the road from me here. Aussie guy. He's got the same one, but then with the blue and flame.
Gotcha.
And they came out in the same year.
Gotcha.
So they're the same guitars, same body, same pickups, same tremolo. And the only thing what I changed on it is that thing. And I think I sent you a photo of it. It's a trem claw.
Yeah. I've seen that.
So the trem claw, you can see it like that. It locks in the springs.
Oh. Right.
And then you got a little grub screw there that locks in the screw to the plate. Maybe put like a little screw there for your earth wire, so it makes it easy. But it is brass. And I thought, the spring will work like a reverb. It's not going to do anything.
Okay.
Now, when we did the test in his studio and we played this over a diesel amp, first did my guitar, and it's just like chords, and then a little bit diddle, and it's kind of get this spectrometer so we can see it scientifically what it does. And then he did his guitar and said, "Oh, you got to stop." I said, "Why?" "Your tone knob. Open up your tone knob." He said, it is open.
Okay.
There was such a difference in those two guitars already, where you're going to go like, sounds like you got your tone knob closed. He's like, no. And they're identical guitars, basically, you know?
Wow, okay.
Huh.
So that makes
That's
a big difference already, because the vibration keeps going.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that tremolo claw, that looks really interesting. I might come around for something like that.
They're on their way from the factory. When I get some, I'll get some to you. You know, and there's another thing I've been working on, which we're gonna get in soon. Is that I saw it on all the YouTube videos. All the YouTubers are looking now on the back of the guitar, what kind of a screws are on the back of the guitar. If they are like the normal Phillips head wood screws, like old Fender, or hexagon, which means there are metal screws. And you're going to go like, oh, it's got metal screws in it, so you get a better contact because it got like a little insert in the wood, which you screw in. It's cabinet making stuff, which still is a screw. You screw in wood, and then you got to insert in it with metal. So I designed something else that will make it even a better solution, but you have to build it with the guitar.
Okay.
So it's like a T-nut inside of the neck, and then you glue the fingerboard on top of it. But I can't show you that because it's in transit now. I wish I had it here, I could show you to you. But that will make such a tight joint between the neck and the body that I think if I start testing it really with two different guitars, it will be like a bolt-on and a fixed neck. You know, set neck, complete.
Yeah, that's what
difference. If that you basically got a bolt-on neck, but you got a set neck sound.
Yeah, that's I went over to build parts casters for the past couple of months, simply because I did one and it turned out very well. Then I remembered, oh yeah, back during my apprenticeship in that shop, I had to build a guitar out of parts that didn't fit, so I had to make them fit. And then that turned out the guitar that was the best sounding guitar of my collection for many years. After, at some point, I was stupid enough to sell it because I needed the money, because, young, stupid. So, and since I never couldn't find the guitar that really would stay with me, unless I would go to Productive, to the like private chamber, and I would have to pay like $7,000 for a guitar. I actually started building my own, and then the first one still has regular, the regular body neck connection with the classic Fender screws that get directly into the wood. And then I discovered these, like some guy here in Germany sells these inlets that you put into the neck, and then you have like really like proper screws. And I noticed that the last two guitars, the last three guitars that I did, that all have these connections. They have a lot more sustain. They're a lot louder, and obviously because the neck is vintage spec'd, you have the adjustment, the truss rod adjustment on the inside. So it might be that you have to unscrew it a couple of times. If you do that with regular wood screws, at some point you're gonna fuck up the wood.
Wear out.
They're gonna wear out, exactly. Yeah. Not so with with these inlets, because you can unscrew the neck as many times as you want. It's not gonna wear out, and you can always adjust the truss rod. So I think that is like, it's one of the best things around, especially if A, if you want a better tone, but also B, if you wanted to build something that is like vintage spec'd, but you want like this modern aspect to it, that you can unscrew the neck as many times as you want, great. So, yeah.
Well, I got the solution coming in soon, but it has to be when you build it because the fingerboard needs to be glued on top of it.
Yeah.
It's got to be sandwiched in between. Because it's got to, yeah. I will show you one day when I got it. I'll make a video in how to do it. That's when I make YouTube videos to explain shit.
Yeah.
Because it's easier than for me to draw it out. Let's make a video. This is how it looks like. You can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to make that thing so stupidly cheap because any person with a leg can make it. So we got to make it stupidly cheap and hopefully sell it to a lot of people that build guitars. Because I think it's going to be a big change in sustain and tone of the guitar.
One thing you guys are saying that I think is really neat, and I just want to share this little part with you, is because you guys are saying like how some stuff that seems almost insignificant, it doesn't seem like you could scientifically prove that, but it's still, the results are there, with like the wood screws and metal screws. I'm one of those people where I used to hate Strats. I used to fucking hate them. I couldn't play a Strat. I hated everything about it. But I came around and I love them. But here's the thing that used to bug me. I used to play the guitar and I had this feeling like there was like some kind of kickback echo every time I would hit a string, like a box sound. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And it turns out, at least for me, it was this fucking back plate here. I took it off and then I wouldn't hear it. But then it was like, maybe it's like some kind of psychosomatic thing. So I'm just going to try it again. So I put the plastic back on. I put some distortion and I tapped on it and it was coming through. So I was like, yeah, this fucking plate is doing something. So I took it off and then the springs, I could still hear them. So if I was using fuzz or something, I could hear the rattle, like kind of like a little reverb going in the background. So what I ended up doing, which is, I'm sure there's a million people that thought of it before me, is I started to experiment with putting stuff underneath, but then that didn't sound right, so I took it off, and then I started cutting out pieces of foam, and I would put them inside. So now there's barely any sound coming out, and it turned out that those things I got laughed at. People were saying, "You're fucking dumb. You think this is going to make a difference?" The plastic plate in the back. But to me, I could hear it. I could hear like the little boxy, woofy thing coming through. So now you guys are throwing this thing at me where the screws. Guys, you're going to send me down a rabbit hole again. Got to start going down.
Look at Steve Vai's guitar. I don't know if you ever seen the back of the Jam.
Yeah.
When Thomas Nordic, he's got like this little plate with Velcro on it. And inside of it's filled with foam.
Yeah.
And his trem stabilizer and all that. But it's filled up because that vibration rings through, especially when you play high gain amplifiers.
Yeah.
Which, of course, Steve does on stage. Those vibrations go everywhere. And yes, we want sustain out of a guitar, but I always find it funny. People kind of talk about, you got to get this Les Paul because it's heavy. It's got a lot of sustain.
Yeah.
That's a pile of bullshit to me as well. Because if you want more sustain, you can buy an amp and turn the gain a little bit. You got more sustain, or get a good sustain pedal, or you put a Sustainiac in there. It can scream until the battery dies. And in the end, the sustain comes out of these two things here.
Yeah. And see, here's another thing about parts that I want to talk about. So with your bridge, I used to have like a 6, like typical Fender saddle bridge. And now I have what your model comes with. So these are just basically 2 strings per saddle. And I've noticed I have more sustain. So the first time I put strings on when I did the video for you, I put the strings through the back because everyone says the strings have to make contact with the body. They have to go through. Then I was like, how much of that is bullshit? And how much of that is true? So right now, I have it wound with the strings going through the bridge because you have holes here where you can put it in. It has more sustain. What the fuck? Everyone says that it has more sustain when it goes through the body, but I find I have more sustain when the strings are attached directly to the bridge. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of rumors out there, and you just have to experiment and find out for yourself what works and what doesn't.
What works for you and how you attack the guitar. See, we had this. You got Tommy Emmanuel. Yeah, you all know him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Now he had an older brother, Phil. Now, if you think Tommy was a brilliant guitar, or is a brilliant guitar player, Phil was even crazy.
Oh, really? Okay.
He passed away a couple of years, but Tommy and Phil, they were like the gypsies in Australia, little kids playing guitar, and they're superstars here. And I did shows with Phil where I was his guitar tech, and I took his guitar, his Blade Levinson guitar, apart, clean everything up, put it back together again, and he started playing and playing and playing. Remco, what do you do to my guitar? Nothing. Just put it back to what it was. Sounds better. So I cleaned the shit out of it because he used this fast grip or this fast stuff on his neck, like the spray stuff.
Yeah.
But he hadn't cleaned his guitar for 10 years, so there was a big build up on the pickups.
Oh.
So I cleaned everything, and all of a sudden his pickups could pick up everything. And I was like, oh man, it sounds but people come to me and they're gonna go like, I want the same setup as what Phil on his guitar had. I've got it here. It's got 1.2 mil on the low E and 3. So man, you're not Phil. You're not Steve Vai. You're not Steve Lukather.
Nope.
How the way you attack the guitar is different. There was today on Facebook was a guy, he said, oh, how high should the pickups be from the string? It's one of those $1 million questions again. So what kind of a pickup is it? What kind of a magnet does it have? What style of music do you play? Do you play, jazz? Do you play blues? Do you play rock? What kind of a strummer are you? Are you a neat picker, or do you dig into strings?
Yeah.
It's got all these factors where you're going to go, if you really dig hard into the strings, you want to
see this, but my pickups on the Strat are pretty low. I used to deck them completely all the way down. And a lot of people say like, man, there's not a whole lot of output in your guitar. And I'm like, yeah, but notice the sustain. I don't have 3 pickups with magnets sucking down on the strings. They can vibrate properly. If there's anything with the volume, I can just make up with it with the amp or some pedals. So whatever like discrepancies in volume that would be between this and a higher setup, I can make up for it with a boost pedal or anything. But the guitar sounds way better this way. And because I hit like a Neanderthal, if I have the pickups too close, I'm just going to be banging my fingers. So by decking them much lower, I have more free reign with the pick. And I find that overall the guitar sustains way better this way. But I've had, like, I remember when I was a kid, I hated Strats because I couldn't fucking, set them up properly. So I had all the pickups really, really high. So I would keep getting all this weird buzzing and oscillation because I couldn't understand that all these magnets are pulling on the string and it can't vibrate properly. So those are all things that if you have a proper tech, you don't have to think about. You just give them the instrument, they set it up for you, and then you get the guitar back. You go, what the hell did you do to my guitar? It plays so nice.
Yeah.
I set up my action quite high. Whenever I give it to a tech, it's like, oh my God, this thing plays like butter. But then whenever I change the strings, it seems like the string tension and neck is moved. I get back to the high tension again. I get used to it. I send it back to a tech, and then they put it down again. I'm like, oh, fuck, I should just pony up the money, just send it to someone, just set up all my guitars all the time. But that would cost me a fortune.
Yeah, because we're not cheap,
No, you guys are not. But the thing is that the kind of work that techs do on guitars sometimes makes the difference between loving an instrument and liking an instrument.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I like this guitar. Send it to a tech. They're like, holy shit, man, this guitar is amazing. Yeah, it was just your pickup height. Yeah, they were down too low or they're up too high. It's all stuff that matters. And how we play, you mentioned that earlier, Remco. Like, you can't play like Phil because you're not Phil. You don't have the same attack on the strings. No. You don't have the same touch on the strings. You don't have the same body mass. Everything about it. It's like I'm experiencing that right now. Like, I'm trying to replicate the sound of popular guitar players, and I'm looking at the gear. The gear is one part of the equation, but the player is also a completely different thing. Like I said, I hit like a Neanderthal. Like, I hit really hard on the strings, and I'm trying to hold back. And then you hear about guys like Billy Gibbons and Brian May and Tony Iommi who are playing like 7s and 8s. Like, dude, they're barely hitting the strings and they got this huge fucking sound. So why am I hitting the strings so hard? These guys sound like amazing. They're using small little fucking strings, and I'm using big ones, and I'm just like plowing through them. I can't sound like them. I don't have the same approach. So that's super crucial.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it on my YouTube channel. I used to do interviews with guitar techs.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've seen a few of them.
And I was interviewing all those guitar techs, and every time when I was doing it, I didn't film it. I could play the guitars. Yeah, so I played, the Edge's guitar. It still sounds shit like me. I played Lindsey Buckingham's guitar. Still sounds like shit because I'm playing it. Steve Lukather, I've done a 2-hour interview with him. And I was doing a G3 tour here. I played his guitar on the stage and still sounds like me. Shit. I can't play.
Yeah, you can't avoid sounding like yourself.
Well, yeah, and then you talk to these guys and kind of go like, Lukather, for example, said, oh yeah, I played over Eddie's rig, but it still sounds like me.
Yeah.
So not shit because it's Steve Lukather, it sounds good.
No.
But so, and it's funny, we all gear junkies. We're all chasing that tone, we're all gear junkies, we want this, we want that. But in the end, you still sound like Chris, like Jonathan, and shit Remco. We still sound like us, and it doesn't matter. I've got all the $1 million gear here in a rack, refrigerator light up. It doesn't make me a better guitar player. I just like the technology behind it.
I have so much gear, and it turns out whether I play a Strat, a Tele, or a Gibson, it always sounds like me, but playing those guitars. And I think in our mentality, we're looking for gear that's going to elevate our playing to another level where we're not going to sound average. We're going to sound better because we're going to be inspired by the gear that we're playing. And I think that's why it's costing us so fucking much, because you get a guitar, you play it, you go, oh my God, this thing plays so fucking well. I need to spend $6,000 on a guitar. And then you bring it home and you set it up and now it doesn't play as good anymore. So now you don't like the guitar. And there's all these small variables that take away from the ease of playing and the enjoyment of playing that brings down our capacity to be able to be at our top. It's kind of like, imagine someone who runs track and field and you give them boots, big military boots. Do you expect that person to be performing at their peak? No. But that's what we do as musicians. We have... But
if you then got Usain Bolt wearing those military boots running against you, still gonna kick your ass.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. But then if you put him in his regular shoes that he wears for running, and you put him against someone else who's really good but is not at that level, he's still gonna kick their ass.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like a guy like me. I'm not Steve Vai. I'm not Satriani. I'm not gonna pretend that I am. But sometimes the gear, when all the stars align, I play just like 10% better than I usually do.
Yeah.
And those are the moments where I turn around and look at the rig and I go, oh, I found my tone. But then I can't replicate it.
And then you go to sleep, you wake up again, tone gone.
Tone gone. I change venues, tone gone. What the fuck? It's that consistency, I think, that we're all looking for. And we can't seem to achieve. So that's why we keep buying amplifiers and pedals and guitars. Because we just want that constant enlightenment from the gear. Like, oh my God, I sound good. Isn't this amazing? Like, I don't sound like shit. Because there's nothing worse than playing and hearing yourself and be completely bored out of your mind. Because you don't play very long. But you put the instrument aside and that's it.
But there's a very important element to that. And it comes in the form of, okay, a little background story. When I started playing guitar and then I started playing in bands, I was nowhere close to having the money to get a somewhat decent rig. So I went on Classified and checked, okay, who has what for sale and how cheap can I get it and what can I construct out of it to get a sound that's somewhat decent. So I had to it took me so much time to dial in a tone that I was satisfied with. And then something broke and I had to replace it. And obviously I didn't have the money to go like, well, now, I can just, buy the next cool thing. No, I had to search again. And this like kind of hustling through all that stuff that doesn't sound great, but you have to somehow make it sound great. I think that really trained me. It trained my ears. It trained my fingers, my hands. And at some point, I was playing in one of the demonstration rooms in the store that I was working in, and a colleague of mine came around and he was like, "Oh, I knew you were playing there. It sounded like you." And I was playing an amp that I wasn't even comfortable with. It was just some amp that I had to demonstrate for a customer. But he said I could tell it was you that I was playing. That's where I thought like, oh, okay. So apparently this whole hustling and trying to make it work for years was worth something. Now, if we look at modern days, if we look at these days, the kids now, I'm just going to say the kids now because we're looking at people who are starting guitar and looking at people who try to work with the things that are available right now at this point. Oh yeah, very good. A refill. So we're looking. No worries. We're looking at the kids now, and it's so easy for kids to get their hands on decent guitar tone, even if it's in the form of plugins. Essentially, if you don't have an amp, if you can't afford anything, you can get yourself like some sort of second-hand audio interface, and then there are plugins out there. There are even free plugins out there. You don't have to pay anything for a plugin. There are free amp plugins out there, and you can get a decent tone. So kids of today, and I know I sound like an old fart, but I don't care. Kids today,
you're spoiled.
Kids
Back in my day.
Yeah, when I was your age. So kids these days, for them, they are never going to know the struggle of some of the stuff that we had to go through to achieve a certain tone and then develop our own kind of sort of tone coming from the fingers, the stuff that so many players that even they admire. Some of these guys look up and look at Steve Vai, look at Joe Satriani, and well, how do you think these people developed their tone? It's not because they bought a new amp and suddenly they had the tone. No, they played their ass off and they had to make it work for them at the time with the resources they had available. It's very simple. And
shitty guitar, shitty amps.
Exactly. They all started the same. And I think that like this kind of root start, that the let's say the bottom, starting from the bottom doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore because it's so accessible these days. Everything is so accessible to people. You might say it's the.
Well, it's funny when we were.
Go on.
Go. Yeah, when we were staying at Mannheim, we were staying at an Airbnb, like a 20-minute drive out of Rosengarten. And we were staying there with the guys from Neural DSP.
Oh yeah, nice.
They were staying at the same place, and they're from Poland. Mm-hmm. Lovely guys. Like the first night we got them, we were sitting there laughing our heads off, already drinking beer, and they brought some 9% bloody Polish beer.
That stuff,
fucking toxic, heavy shit. But they were saying about their plugins that they were doing now modeling for all these amps. So you get you can buy them a pack of amplifiers. You can whack them on your computer, and there you've got your this, that. It's like I had to play with one little shitty transistor amplifier. And I had to play with it, and then bit by bit, I assembled this one, but it's all secondhand gear that I accumulated over 10 years, going on eBay, buying all this shit. But yeah, and the funny thing is, they make all these plugins, and then the big boss said, around April last year or May last year, we did a special It was a special kind of boost thing with a big red knob on it. People could tell it. Hey, can you hear it? And people making videos out of it. Oh, yeah, man, you can really hear the difference in attack on this thing or whatever they called it. It was a nothing button. It did nothing.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
But the way he was talking about it, we were all drunk and stoned. And, oh, man, we were just pissing ourselves laughing because the way he explained it in broken English and tried to explain, it was hilarious.
Frank, you brought up something that I think makes for a very interesting topic, which is the learning curve for musicians, let's say 10, 15 years ago versus today, and how it created different guitar players. So you guys were talking about like Joe Satriani and guys like that, right? One thing that really sets these guys apart, anyways, in my humble opinion, is their guitar tone. Like if you think of Tom Scholz from Boston, Brian May from Queen, Zakk Wylde, guys like that, like you hear them two notes, you know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And they have the thing that they're doing that's unique to them. Like Brian May has all these like layered guitars that he does with his delay pedals, harmonized guitars with Boston and bands like that. Steve Vai had a certain way of shredding. Yngwie Malmsteen had his way of shredding, right?
Yeah.
And you think of all these guys, like they developed a sonic style and a playing style that was unique to them, and that was kind of like the trend. And then you think of today, and the guitar players are super fucking versatile. Like they can do so much. It is absurd. But at the same time, because they have all this gear they can play with, they haven't crafted a sound that's unique to them. And I think it has to do with like the options that they have.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got a Kemper. If I want to, I can play with a Diesel. I can play with a Mesa. I can play with this, and that. But those 60s, 70s, and 80s guitar players, what did they have? Marshalls. If they lived in the States, it had Marshalls and Mesas. If you lived in Europe,
Deluxe.
or Fender.
Yeah.
So a lot of these sounds were crafted around one particular piece
Those
of gear.
amps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now today, the limits are almost like sky high when you think about it, because you can have clones of things that already exist with all these modifications that are done, so you get like the super version of a very popular amp, or you could use plugins, you can use all this stuff.
Yeah.
So the struggles that young musicians have are not with that. They're going to be something else. It's going to be running MIDI or with their computers so that everything syncs up with the click track when they're playing live. I remember, and this shows how old I am, I remember playing a fucking wedding. I had a trainer amp, okay? But it wasn't so much like the big gear. It was plugging in and here, welcome to... I was getting a fucking radio station as loud as my playing.
Terrible.
And I must have been like 15, 16. I am losing my shit because I can't figure out where it is. And I'm unplugging pedals, and the show is supposed to start, but people are laughing because my thing turned into a big fucking radio. And this guy comes out with aluminum paper, puts it in front of my amp, and goes, plug straight in. I plug straight in. It did nothing. I ended up with aluminum in the input jack of my amp. He was trying to isolate the radio frequencies. Dude, it was a nightmare. Turns out it was, I guess the cables I was using were very cheap, and I had a bunch of pedals running together. I had to take just about everything off and go straight into the amp, and then I was okay.
Oh.
So then I started to hate pedals.
Shit.
I was like, pedals are shit, man. I'm getting all this like radio frequencies coming through. So the struggles are different. And there's also the volume too that's different. Kids, and I'm saying kids, I'm including like millennials that are in their 30s and late early 40s that learned to play with like something like a Kemper. There is none of that. They don't have to worry about radio frequencies coming through. They just have to worry about whether the guy at the console is going to turn on the 48 volts and send phantom power to their Helix or their HX Stomp and blow their shit up. You know, it's like it's different struggles. And I think that's what is the beauty of going forward, is that the musicians are adapting to new problems, new ways of doing things. But what made, and I know I'm talking a lot here, but it's just I'm trying to come back to the point that was those struggles and that gear created very unique guitar players, but guitar players that were more centered on a style and a sonic signature. Whereas today, you're going to see people that have a much more fluent style in terms of their playing, and their sound isn't iconic or anything. It just sounds good, but it's almost generic in a sense, right? Because they're all using similar profiles or similar modelers, and they end up downloading the presets. They still sound like themselves, but there's a sonic quality to it that you know it's a modern player, as opposed to, let's say, someone like Zakk Wylde or Joe Satriani for that matter.
Right.
But then if you look at the technicality of these young kids now, or what they can do with the instrument and what they do with it, that's like miles away of, the old guitar heroes. You got
Absolutely.
Those guys. Oh, man, I'm so horrible with names. Matteo, the Italian kid.
Mancuso, yeah.
You look at that guy and kind of go like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you want to rage quit your guitar playing.
What the fuck? When you don't see what he's doing and just listen, you're gonna go like, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
finger styles.
Is he playing with a drill?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And then you got the other kids from America, the guy with the big tattoo on his neck.
Polyphia? That it?
Yeah, Polyphia.
Tim Henson?
Yeah. Technically, man, these guys are monsters.
Yeah, 100%.
What they can do and all that. And then if you can compare them, then say with, I'm probably going to get killed for this one. Imagine, Eddie Van Halen would have been born now together with these guys.
He'd be a very different guitar player.
Ed?
He would probably be a very different player.
Yeah, 100%.
'Cause, I mean, look, you go on YouTube and you see someone like Yvette Young. Oh, how the hell does she come up with this stuff? She's got all these alternate tunings and she's like tapping. It's super melodic, but yet it's very intricate, but it's enjoyable to listen to. It's not like when I was growing up and I was listening to guitar players and they were going like a fucking like notes, like a blizzard of notes. She's got a lot of notes, but there's an intricacy and there's like an element of like you're able to listen to it like a regular song. So she's crafting her own style. And there's different musicians like that you listen to and you go, what are their influences? Like, how the fuck did they come up with this? And it's kind of like that Eddie Van Halen thing. Like, if you listen to Eddie Van Halen and anything that came before him, you go, how did he come up with it? Well, yeah, you got people that think outside the box. And like I've said before,
he's Dutch, that's why.
That's why.
Probably. But there's some people that are not even aware there's a fucking box. They always operate outside of it.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're here like I'm going to be the next Eddie Van Halen. Then you see these people, you go, no, I'm just going to be a guy who tinkers with guitars on YouTube. That's all I'm going to do.
Well,
no
and that's
hope
why
in
I
hell.
ended up building bloody guitar parts. It's...
Yep.
I don't have the talent to be the next Eddie Van Halen or Satriani or Fight.
Neither.
I gave up.
Yeah.
When I saw Satriani play, I was like, what's the point? This guy is like, 10 years older than me? I will never be able to get even sniff on it,
No.
And there's a photo that I've got when I did an interview with Steve Lukather then. There was Satriani, Steve Vai. Then I had Louis Shelton in there. I don't know if you guys know who Louis Shelton is.
Name rings a bell, yes.
Wrecking Crew.
Okay.
This guy, he's the guy who played the guitar solo on Lionel Richie's Hello, for example.
Oh, okay.
And he done shitloads of stuff in the 70s and 80s. Now, he lives on the Gold Coast here. So when I did my interview with Steve Lukather, I said, well, congratulations, you guys been nominated in the Musicians Hall of Fame together with my buddy Louis. Because he was there as well in the Musicians Hall of Fame. He said, oh, do you know Louis? I said, yeah, I called him. So Louis came to the show. So then I got a photo now of Steve Vai, Steve Lukather, Louis Shelton, and me. And I'm thinking, I'll get something of the dust on me, got the bloody, the guitar heroes of the world, and still doesn't work. Still got to put the hours in it to practice and play. And yeah, I'm not the most patient guy for that kind of shit, sitting down and practice my legatos and all that stuff. It takes a different breed of people. I'm not that kind of a guy. I like to tinker with stuff and make it better and make those guys sound better and play faster and
But we need that.
Yeah,
we need
do.
people like you that are going to make it easier for us to be able to do what we do.
Yeah.
So if you take someone like Steve Vai, imagine if he didn't have his tech and he had to do everything himself. He would hit a wall at a certain point. He'd go, okay, yeah, I'm Steve Vai, but okay, I can't do everything.
Yes.
So he would have to seek out someone. And I think that's what makes the success is when you can recognize what you're good at, but you can also recognize that you can't do everything on your own. You need a team and you need people who are far better than you at certain things.
It's true, yeah.
It's like, look at me and Frank. We got this podcast going, but Frank is actually fucking killer at doing the interview stuff. That's why I give him the floor. I let him talk because he comes in, he's prepared, he knows what the fuck he's doing, and I'm just like the comic relief, right? Like, cock pee pee, make jokes and
now you're making yourself smaller than you are.
No, but it's kind of like how I see it.
Okay.
I see it as Frank is the guy who's coming in with more structure. He knows what he's doing. He's done well. I mean, fuck what he did for Guitar Summit. I could never do. I would have stage fright. Right? He's sitting there across from like Bill Kelleher, just talking to the guy from Mastodon or talking to Larry Basilio and all that. It's like, holy fuck, man! These are like stars. They're big guys, and he's just sitting there comfortably talking to them, asking questions. And I was saying to my wife because I could see him do the interviews. I'm like, he's fucking amazing. Look at him. And I would watch the interviews on my phone and he's killing it. Holy shit. No wonder they hired him. You would have put me there and I would have been like, just like completely uncomfortable, not knowing what to say. Right.
Yeah, but yeah.
So we all have our stuff. And I think that's what go ahead, Frank.
But it's probably also then, but Frank is not going to be starstruck by people. And I've got the same thing. See, a good friend of mine, he passed away now 2 years ago. He was a producer. Gary Miller.
Okay.
And he lived in Malibu. And every time when I would go to NAMM, I would stay a week at his place. And Gary had this project which started 10 years ago called Rock Against Trafficking. And now there's a lot of awareness about it. But he started this project to create awareness for the human trafficking, sex slave trafficking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To create an album called Rock Against Trafficking. They used all songs from Sting and the Police and got them then recorded by, big artists like Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. He did Roxanne version. Fucking killer. You can get those songs on my webpage.
Oh, yeah?
And so I was there with Gary one day and we go for lunch in Malibu. And it's a special place in Malibu where the paparazzi is not allowed to come. It's just like an unwritten rule. They don't go there because that's where the celebrities... I don't see these people. I don't know who they are. So Gary and I were sitting there having lunch. And this guy comes out with his big cigar. Hey, come over here. And sits down with us. And we start talking. He asked what I'm doing. I said, I'm doing the music and blah, 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 blah. And I'm asking, so, what do you do for a living? And he looks at my mate Gary. He's like, is this guy for real? So, well, sorry. It's like, have you heard of the actor called Gary Busey? He played in Under Siege with Steven Seagal and with Keanu Reeves, in Point Break. That was him.
Shit.
Sitting right next to him. And I was like, so what do you do for a living?
It's funny, isn't it?
I had no fucking clue. The next morning we go to a coffee place just to get our daily shot of caffeine. And this tiny lady stands right next to me. Oh, excuse me, could you get me sugar or whatever? So there you go, Dal. Have a lovely day. See you. Bye. And Gary goes to me, you know who that was? I don't know. It was Lady Gaga.
Oh, shit. There you go.
Oh. Okay. But then we were driving through the Hollywood Hills because we had to go to a radio station, do an interview. And the phone rang. And Gary was driving, so I picked up his phone. It's like, it's fucking Glenn Hughes.
No.
Can I? Yeah. Hello? Wait, 12! It's like, fuck.
We're not.
It was on the fucking phone. Yes, exactly. It was on the phone. I was like, talked to him. I was like, how stupid is that? I saw these other people next to me, and on the phone was Glenn Hughes, and I was losing my shit.
I think that I'm usually not starstruck It happened to me when I was younger, but at some point, the more people I met that had some sort of a status, whether in, being popular or being known or famous, the more I'm like, it's just a person like me, just like everybody else. He wants to.
Oh, we all breathe and shit the same way.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
We all breathe and shit the same way. So that's why if I'm sitting on a couch next to someone who has played trillions of shows and has auditioned for Kiss, for example, like Doug Aldrich, I'm like, yeah, cool. He has auditioned for Kiss, and it always, in most cases, it turns out that these people most of them are very down to earth, unless we're talking to Amy Malmsteen, of course, but that's a different story.
And I think with Ingwie, it's also a little bit of an act.
It is. It is. He likes to.
He wants to pretend he's this Swedish Viking. Most of these people, when they got talent and get to the top, for what I met with all these people, what I've met in my life so far, they're all down to earth, very nice people. It's those ones that just try to get there. Those are the biggest assholes.
It's true.
They're just not good enough, but they got the egos. They are, filling Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
That's, I think one of the things that sets us apart now from back in those days is that when you had a talent that was coming up, there would be an agency that would help them craft an image and how to do interviews and all that. And there was no such thing as bad publicity. So these guys would create personas for the camera. And this was back in the day where you wondered how Ozzy Osbourne lived.
Yeah.
Does he live in a cave eating bat heads? Like, how does he do it? And eventually, anyways, this is my perspective, is that eventually that the drapes came down and we got to see that these were just normal people. So some of those old guys are still playing the characters whenever they're in front of the camera, just because that's how they've done it.
Yeah,
like they've been doing it forever. And all the upcoming musicians are way more relatable. So they're more like, hey, this is what I do. I play guitar. I'm no different than you, and I'm not a rock star. So that like iconic, legend thing is kind of gone with the new generation of guitar players. And I think that's why they're really successful. They don't look like douchebags who are, throwing TVs out of hotel windows.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're not doing that shit anymore.
Exactly.
So that might be why
and drugs is not cool anymore either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's lost its appeal for a lot of people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We usually,
which is a good thing.
We usually close this down with a little funny game where Jonathan is our game show host, and I'm gonna give it to Jonathan. Exactly. He's doing the game while at the same time I'll go. So
now before I do the game, Frank, I have to admit,
I'm nervous about that one.
Yeah. Frank, you really let me down because you did not call me the Duke of Voxington, and I was wearing my Vox shirt for you specifically today.
I'm so sorry.
I'm really sad.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go eat my emotions when I'm done with the podcast. I just have to let you know.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
But
next
these
time.
are still the coolest amps in the world.
Yeah. Okay, so now before I go with the questions, you've mentioned this before, and you told me before we started the podcast that you came to the guitar game a bit later in life, so you're not like constantly thinking guitar like a guitar player, but you do play guitar. So my questions are going to be centered around guitar playing. So if it doesn't really apply to you, just let's invent something else and go in another direction. But when you started playing guitar, what was your dream guitar? What was the guitar that you wanted to learn on?
A Strat.
Stratocaster.
And funny enough, I had a friend then. Her father was a classical piano player. And one day I came back from holidays and she bought a black Fender Stratocaster. With the thingy on it. It's like, oh, that's cool. So we started mucking around with it. She could play, I couldn't play. But I was like, oh, that's cool. What does this do? cool. So then we went to guitar stores and I wanted that guitar. And I bought a white one, 71.
Oh,
yeah.
And then
Nice.
stupid me wanted to be like Steve Vai, and I traded in for that black guitar what I showed you. Should have never done that.
We all made those moves back in those days. We all did. All right. My second question for you. What is, in your opinion, the best sounding amplifier, guitar amplifier? Would you go with something specific like Vox, Marshall?
Well, it depends on what kind of music you're going for. You know, that's the thing. You know, if you're going to go for more blues sound, I would go for a Vox. But if I want to sound like Rammstein, I wouldn't use a Vox. You know, I would go for an Engel, you know, or a heavy diesel.
Okay.
So it depends on what kind of music you make. So that's when the campers come in place. Then, you know, I can play everything at the wedding.
yeah, it's true.
Pretty much. Yeah. you have access to everything. So third question. So there's 5 in total. My third question for you is, out of all the designs that you've made so far, what's the one that you wish that people knew about? Like the one thing you're like, man, I'm so proud of this thing. Why don't people know more about it?
It's going to come.
Yeah.
Where's the music?
Ah,
All right.
there you go.
This I've been working on now for 18 months with Harley Benton. This got to be the new model. So this is really the prototype. As you can see, you know, we've mocked out shit here, but this has got to be. It's in QC now at the moment at Tormen. So if you go to Germany, you can see it, but it's got a full floating tremolo on it.
Nice.
Headless. And this is a tremolo where I'm extremely proud of. Mainly for the reason it's so designed that all the tremolos what I've seen over the years, the biggest problem what you have is that over time, the little knife edge, so the knife edge and you got the post, it becomes blunt, get like little chips in it. So it never goes back to the 0 point. Now, the company that I work with in China, they do more than just building guitar parts. Their main industry is the medical industry and racing cars.
Okay.
That's where they make parts for. And I was telling this to my partner, Nick. So we're going to find something in that steel plate or an add-on part or anything that makes it so hard that we don't get those chips. He said, well, we could do a special heating process for this plate. So we got a soft steel where we machine it out. Then it goes into an oven. And the oven is vacuumed and get to a certain temperature. And then they introduce carbon dioxide.
Okay.
Oh.
And the carbon dioxide gets absorbed by the hot steel. And then it slowly cools down. So we don't quench it in, you normally hot steel, quench it, bam, you get a knife. But there's a special science for that to get it to the right, what do you call it? Tension strength.
Okay.
If you go too far, it makes it brittle, becomes like glass. You can just drop it and it breaks. But if you go not far enough, it's still soft. So we had to experiment with that. So, and then we make our post out of hardened stainless steel.
Okay.
So our knife edge will never go blunt. Well, never. But it will stay for a long time sharp. And the plate is made out of steel then, and then you got the brass bridges on it with a heavy brass sustainer block. That tremolo rings forever. And then we designed it so you can have it for 6-string straight or for multi-skill.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
Crazy.
Or
He's showing us stuff all the time.
Oh, he's passionate about what he's doing.
you can go even crazier. So that's our tremolo. And then you got the frets.
Oh.
So the banana frets. Yeah. With the drop D again.
Oh.
But yeah.
That's insane.
And this is a monster of a guitar. I built this one just to
prove a point.
Well, and that's why I build guitars. I only build guitars to demonstrate my weird shit. And then sometimes friends of mine come over, oh, I want to buy that one. Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Go on.
So my next question for you. Oh no, that's okay. I love it. My next question for you. If we took the B&G Bender, what famous artist would you love to see this on their guitar?
An Aussie guy, Keith Urban.
Oh, yeah.
Keith Urban. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah.
Very good answer.
Yeah, Keith or Brett Paisley, but Brett's got his own technique already with the bending what he does, so I don't think he's going to take it on because it's new technique he's got to learn. But it would be fun to get Keith to play it because he grew up just an hour's drive in Caboolture.
Oh. So that would be cool seeing someone like that have the B&G Bender on, because he's a hell of a player too. He's a great player.
He's a hell of a player.
Yeah.
Not only in country, because he used to play in rock bands here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That explains why he has a more like rock-ish kind of tone to him, because he doesn't sound very twangy. He sounds more modern with his approach.
He does, yeah.
So that would explain it.
Yeah.
This brings me to our last question. And this one here is going to be something that I feel you're going to be like, why'd you ask me this question? Is there any way we can convince you to come back to Guitar Summit for 2024?
24. Funny enough, people ask me that. Said, man, are you coming next year? There was the guy from FM Guitars, Felix Maarten. Have you ever seen his guitars? Like, they got 18 or 16 strings and tapping, and we supply hardware for his guitars. He said, man, I need a good reason to come, and it's a good excuse to come.
Yeah. And
I haven't had the excuse yet.
We'll see if we can convince you, because we're going to be there this year.
I'm trying my ways with Tolman, see what they can, if they want me there, if I need to be there when they launch the new Dallahan. Maybe that would be a good reason for me to be there.
That would be a great reason. Yeah.
But flying over, having a booth, and all that shit, man, I got to sell a lot of shit to recoup for that. I was invited to go to NAMM last weekend. Was it last weekend?
Yeah.
A friend of mine from England, Scott Dixon, he makes these aluminum flight cases for touring bands. And he went over and he said, Rem, are you coming? I said, no. He said, man, you can have a small corner on my booth, show your stuff, and then, you selling my stuff in Australia anyway, you'll be fine. $3,000 it will cost me just to fly to LA from here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, the $3,000, then I got to get a hotel and food. I spent $5,000 for 5 days.
It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
It's not worth the money, and for me to fly to Europe, it's 22 hours in a fucking plane.
Yeah, it's oh God, it's a lot.
And I'm not saying that I'm afraid of flying, but I fucking hate it.
It is a pain.
I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6". I'm not the skinniest bloke around. And when we flew around the last time, we booked, because now you got to pay for your exit seats. You got to pay extra for that. So there was like $300 per flight extra. Got more leg space, but because now you got your little TV and your table have to come from your seat, so your seat gets narrower. True. So you got the leg space, but no ass space.
Yeah.
So you're cramped anyway, and you sit there for the flight from here to Qatar was 12 hours, and then 8 hours from Qatar to where we flew to Düsseldorf.
Oh shit! Yeah.
And we flew back from Munich, so it was 8 hours from Munich to. It's a long trip, and I'm not gonna say I'm getting old, but I don't enjoy those long trips anymore.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So it's not a no.
I used to go almost every second year to Music Messe, flying down, catch up with the family, do the Messe, and then fly from Frankfurt back home.
Yeah.
And if I go now, so last year we made a holiday out of it, so it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there for a whole month. But if I just go back for a week, it's like you're fucked already when you get there because you get jet lagged.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Then you got to do the show, and then you fly back. And most of the time you get sick then because you're over exhausted.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
It's NAM tracks, but then it's like Messer tracks or whatever we're going to call it.
Exactly.
Some
But,
tracks.
I would love to come, but I need to get a good reason to go there that I can kind of convince my wife as well. Kind of go, I'm going to spend another couple of grand to go to a fucking show that didn't do anything last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the way I'm taking it is you're not saying no, you're not saying yes, you're saying convince me.
Okay.
Well,
so.
let Messer Guitar Summit also show that it's worthwhile for people to spend this kind of money. Because the concept of the show, I love it. Headphones on, you don't hear all the other people going. It's quiet. It's lovely. You can talk with people because that's the thing. What I hate about NAMM, for example, you're there for the first day. 4 hours later, your voice is gone. 6 hours later, your patience is gone because you listen to the same shit the whole day. The next kid who found Eruption on the radio started to play Eruption again, and it just drives you nuts. And then it's funny enough, the last time when I was at NAMM, I was just sick and tired of it. I started to walk around. I went to the big audio stuff where they got for stadiums, so the big line array systems and all that. Yeah. And I stood there and I was talking with this Italian lady, and she said, "What can I do for you?" And they had like an espresso machine there. I said, "That coffee sounds really good." And we started talking. He said, "What are you here for?" "Just to get my ears,
a break. Yeah.
I got a headache. I'm just sick and tired of it. It just gives me a headache. I'm just, disorientated. And I'm here where if you guys crank the shit out of that, the pain comes off the walls."
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but we can't. We can't. This was like on 0.1 volume. Nice background music like in the elevator. You're going to go like, you dial it up 3 and the paint already comes off the walls, and you go to the guitar things and it's like,
absolutely terrible.
Oh, sweet Lord.
So yeah, Messer concept, I love it. But they just got to make it more appealing for guys like us. And I think you guys spoke about it with somebody that in Italy they do a show where you pay, say, $800 for a booth, but then you pay like $200 more.
You have guaranteed, exactly. You have guaranteed media coverage for the. So they're actually giving the YouTubers money. So you have guaranteed media coverage, which is definitely, it's a very good concept. And I think, I think it's perfect. And if Musikmesse, now I'm starting with Musikmesse. If Guitar Summit starts applying that, I think it might also pay off, in a way. 100%.
So everybody would be able to pay an extra $200 to $300. Don't come with, make it $1,000 because then it's get too expensive again. But $200-300, nothing comes for free. We all get that. But it's not cheap to do these shows. You got to bring all your gear over there. You got to fly there, especially when you come out of Europe.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's my choice to live in, this faraway country in the bottom's end of the world.
Crocodiles and spiders and all sorts of things that want to kill you. It's a choice, man.
Everybody says that. But you can get in Belgium. You can hit by a bloody cow.
Pheasants.
Pheasants on the. You're riding your bicycle and you get a pheasant in front of you. You flip over and you break your neck. So bloody dangerous as pheasants. I'm disappointed I don't get the deserted island question, but
oh, do you want it?
You want the deserted island
I'll
question?
ask you.
I would have said I was swimming this afternoon with my son and said, "Oh man, I'm nervous about this interview because he's going to ask me about the deserted island thing." So Dad, what would you bring then? So not a guitar because a man's got to eat.
True.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I probably would bring the crocodiles with me just so I feel at home.
Something like that.
I would bring an acoustic guitar. I got fishing line straight away,
Yeah. Now, today I wanted to tailor the questions specifically for you. Sometimes, like when I know guys are like really into guitar stuff, then I go like with the desert island thing. But with you, I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch it up a bit, just make it more interesting, because I really wanted to highlight the stuff that you do, right?
Yeah.
So that way I didn't put you on the spot
appreciate
going, I would bring a Gibson Les Paul 59 with a Dumble
Yeah.
and a Klon. It's like, we still haven't had
I
that
sound
answer.
like shit, you know. I wouldn't attract any nice people to come to the island. You know, they're all gonna piss off. So I bet I have a barbecue. People show up. Oh, there's food here.
All right.
Awesome.
Remco, thank you so much for taking the time, especially at this time of day, for you and for the insights, and for the fun conversation. It was really entertaining, and
I enjoyed it.
We can definitely do it again, and I really hope that somehow that somebody or someone is able to convince you to come to the summit, so we can have a couple of beers.
We'll talk with them. Oh, that's always good. Yeah, that's always good. All right, thank you guys.
See ya.
All right. Awesome.